Good morning and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their road toward publication. My name is Jennifer Carltong, and I write historical Christian romance.
Hi, I'm Christina Catane, and I write in many genres, including Christian dystopian fiction and thrillers and all kinds of stuff.
I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I write fiction and nonfiction.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write in multiple genres under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
And if you are just tuning in for the first time or first time in a while, the reason why we all look so stupefied is because we have just come out of NaNoWriMo 2018.
Yay!
And we survived.
We did. We survived. Not only did we survive NaNoWriMo, we also survived Preptober, which was kind of a first for us to really spend an extra month preparing for Nano. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But for right now, we always start our episodes with a part that we call the What's Up, where we check in with each other, see how we're doing, not only in our professional lives, but our personal lives as well. And I would like to start today with Miss Jamie Hirschberger. J.R. Nichols, tell us, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's, look, I have a turtleneck on and you're like, but I thought you moved to Florida. Well, the part of Florida that we moved to is not all briny breezes all the time. It is, it is not tropical here. It gets a little chilly. Now, I'm not even going to go talking about numbers because I know you people in Michigan would put me to shame, but I am refusing to turn on my heat. So I had to bundle up inside the house. And it's really funny because if you see my middle child, she is bundled up like an Eskimo inside the house. It's kind of amusing. But we get almost freezing temperatures overnight. Fortunately, the house stays nice and toasty in the 60s. So it's not like I'm freezing down here. Just feels like I am.
Because your blood hasn't thickened. Up here, we slowly got used to this cold weather, so our blood is thickened up to keep us warm. And you're down there with that thin blood running through your veins. So
yeah, I mean, we moved here in September, and we were in the 90s all the way until November. Like our highs were 90, whatever. So it wasn't like I came down here and had the cooler part of Florida yet, And it's really interesting, new climate, new friends, new experiences. Here, it will be like winter for 2 days, and then it's back to 80s. Like, I mean, I know the weather in Michigan will swing sometimes, but to have it weekly jumping around like that, it's just really interesting. Not at all a complaint, just an observation, and we're just adapting to our new lives here. We feel very blessed to have this new experience. What's up with you, Jen?
Well, golly, I hadn't actually thought about what I was going to say. I've been obviously Christmas decorating. I have positioned my desk this morning specifically for Rhonda's enjoyment because as you will see in future podcasts that we pre-recorded, Rhonda really appreciates my decorating. Really. So I've been decorating. I've been still writing. I have like 3 chapters away from being completely finished with book 4 of the series. Yay, which is very exciting. And just kind of doing the Christmas thing and the family thing and all that. So let's move on over to Rhonda and let's see what she has to say about my Christmas decorations, which aren't even finished, by the way. I'll just have you know I'm still working.
Oh, that's good. Well, your decorations are lovely, very holiday specific. And what lucky children to have such huge stockings. And also, Jamie, yes. I would like to let you know that Saturday it's going to be 40 degrees up here. So pool party at my house if you want to be here.
Have a pool now?
Oh, that's great.
Really, it's more like a pond.
Yeah.
It is a pond.
Yeah. I know better than to really complain about feeling cold in any way. I hear you, Rhonda.
Yeah.
If your house is 60 during the day, I would say you have room to complain because my house is in the 70s right now, no matter what.
Well, we keep the thermostat at 73 when the hot weather is around, and that seemed to be okay. And so it's, it is cold. But I'm just being such a Grinch about that heat because I guess I just want to see what the bill is like if we don't have to turn it on. I don't know. I'm just experimenting, I guess. I'm cruel. I'm going to get hate mail. Turn the heat on for your babies.
All right, Rhonda, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine because I don't want to talk about it anyway. Am I supposed to be telling you like what has been going on right now?
Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
not your nano stuff. We'll get to that later,
right.
but everything else in your life.
Okay. Oh, well, everything else is dandy. This week has been all about Christmas parties at my museums. So my husband went to an event with me on Tuesday, and it was so much fun. It was like a date. And it was nice to be able to introduce him finally to all these people that I spend so much of my time with. And then tonight at the museum that I curate, we're having our party tonight. And it's for the whole community. So that's going to be pretty awesome. And so that's what's been taking my time this week.
And which museum is it that you curate? Is it the Atlas Museum?
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I just have to
like
know,
it.
do you guys do like old fashioned Christmas decorations, like candles on the tree, or I don't even know, like
well, not we are going to be doing different eras every year. This year it's, I don't know if anybody has these, but it's like the Christmas Village, except they're made out of paper mache and they were made in the 50s. And they're all like fluorescent green and pink and red little bottle brush trees. And I'll send you a picture of it. It is totally retro and I love it.
wow.
That is very cool. You should, I was gonna say if you ever do Victorian period, I'll come help you. We can roast chestnuts and we can do like a whole girl stickers. I would be so excited.
We'll do that next year. That'll be our plan.
Awesome. So, all right. So speaking of things I want to share with you real quick before we get to you, Tina, I haven't forgotten you, but I went to lunch with my parents yesterday. We did some Christmas shopping, and Rhonda, my dad told me, he's like, yeah, I have all these calendars over the years that my mom kept. Like they're all rolled up, and every single day my grandmother would write on the calendar what was going on that day.
Wow.
He has the calendar that says Larry went off to basic training this day, you know, and she talks about and then she chronicled the weather every single day. It has like a little, I'm like, Dad, this is like a diary of your mom.
Yeah.
How many years do you have worth? He goes, probably 20. So
oh my word.
He's like, I don't know what to do with it. He's like, well, what would I do with this? And I'm like, I know. And I'm like, you could donate it to the historical society there. And Otis was like, oh, they wouldn't want that. I'm like, I bet they would. So I'm like, I'm gonna talk to my friend Rhonda and see what she says.
Oh my word, my heart is like pounding right now. And it might be the espresso beans, but I'm pretty sure it's that.
Now, my dad was the youngest of 10 too. So these could go back, who knows how long. Like my grandfather was born in 1900 because my dad was the youngest of 10. And there's over 20 years between him and his oldest brother. So my grandparents were really like great grandparent age for me, so like, and my grandmother was born in 1908, 19 something like that, real close. Oh no, she was born in 1900. My grandpa was born in 1890 something.
Oh my goodness.
So we're talking, so if he had some from when she was a teenager, it would be when my stories are happening.
Yeah.
So.
All right. If you give me access to those, I will digitize those for you, and then they'll be saved forever.
Oh.
Yeah.
I will talk to him.
Yes.
I will talk to. That's awesome. All right. So now I have goosebumps. Okay.
Or you could just get them from him and give it to him as a present for Christmas, Jen, if there's time.
Yeah.
Or his birthday,
the digitizing. He has a flip phone from 1992, and so like the digitizing probably won't help him, but
he just might appreciate the preservation part of it.
Yeah, and it might be easier for him to look through too.
But I could give it to each of the grandkids because with 10 children, and they all had kids except for 2. So I mean, there's a lot of I have a lot of cousins, so that would be a really cool thing for me to be able to do. That's awesome.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Oh my word, I'm so happy for you and jealous also.
Yeah. All right, Tina's waiting over there patiently while we have this little sub conversation that has nothing to do with writing. But hi, Tina, how are you?
Hi, Tina.
I'm good. I have nothing exciting like that going on. My chair broke.
Oh,
the one you're sitting in?
The one I'm sitting in is like 17 years old.
Mm.
And it can still sit in it, obviously, but it doesn't recline anymore.
Is there a chance that you might take an epic spill during our podcast that we could monetize?
I was like,
this is revenge.
we just love you, Tina.
Anyway, so, and my son's rabbit chewed through my keyboard. I have a USB keyboard that I like to write on when I'm writing.
So are you having rabbit stew for supper?
No, but
Awesome,
I have
Papa.
to get a new keyboard and I have to get a new chair.
Oh,
Those are
So
Christmas
other than-
presents.
shopping. Oh
and I
no.
have 2 books ready to be edited and published.
Yay.
So that's kind of exciting. One's a short story, and one's my Nano project. Of course, the Nano project needs a lot of editing because when I was editing the piece that I submitted for a postcast that everybody could read for $2 if they join, it took me like 3 days. Every time that I can't even tell you how many times I uploaded it to where we upload our stuff, and then read it and went and took it down and edited it. And like I kept finding things. Oh, and then I still keep finding things. So, and that's just one chapter.
I think
Well,
it's
all of that
probably
hard
because
work
it's.
will. Go ahead,
I was
Jen.
going to say, I think that's probably a lot to do with the fact that it's so fresh. Like when you walk away from something for a longer period of time and then you go to edit it, you find more of them, I think, in the first week. But every time I read some of my stuff, I sometimes find things to be edited. Some things find like, oh, I wish I had said it this way instead. Sometimes it just never ends.
Yeah,
Go
at
ahead,
some
Jamie.
point you just have to say, okay, this is just how it's going to be, and then I'll catch things in the final edit before I publish.
Right.
Yeah, I was just trying to say that all of that editing just makes you a more clean writer the first time through the next time. So it doesn't. It's not ever a waste of time to make those
Well, yeah, I
corrections.
didn't think it was. It just was so. It took so much time. I thought I was going to sit down in an hour and do the editing and submit it, and no, it took a long time. So, for just one chapter.
Yeah, and that can make it seem like, oh no, if that's just one chapter, how long will it take to do,
But to me,
50,000
it
words
was
or
like
something?
the most important part of the book. So I wanted it to be perfect too. So I was probably a lot more picky than what I will be on the rest of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that chapter to be perfect, which it's not. But oh well.
It will be, though. I mean, this is still just the beginning. You did one edit on it. I mean, how many edits do I do before I send it to my editor? Minimum of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the game.
And it's
And anybody who
fiction,
says,
so will it ever be perfect? Probably not.
sure, it can be. I think it can be. I think that what I was saying about how I find things, I wish I would have said it differently. That's just perfectionism. That doesn't mean that it's not edited,
Right.
So, yeah. All right. Well, we are coming out of NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month 2018. And yes, we are a little bit maybe crazy and a little bit still sleepy from everything, but it's time for us to be accountable and tell everybody how we did. And then I'd like us to also maybe kind of touch on maybe what we do differently next year or what really worked for us, whatever. I just want you guys to share what you think. And then we're going to move on and talk some more about specifically about Tina, because Tina was our experiment this year with our Preptober. So is there anyone that wants to go first and talk about their nano experience?
I'll go first. I finished early for the first time. Well, no, I mean really early, the 15th, which was just amazing because the amount of output that I managed was just amazing. But I think it's because I had all of you ladies who were writing, and I have a husband who travels. So when someone was saying, hey, anybody up for 25-minute word sprint, I was able to take advantage of that and have several writing sessions in a day as opposed to like just one that I might do on a regular day. But what I would like to say I'm going to do different is I'm going to treat the NaNoWriMo as a marathon that I'm training for. And I've already bumped up my daily word count to 1,000 words a day. So instead of writing 500 words a day, I'm now writing 1,000 words a day. And I'm hoping that by the time NaNoWriMo rolls around, I will be able to feel that I can bump that up even more to possibly 1,500 words a day, like on a permanent basis, so that I can say National Novel Writing Month ain't a thing because I'm already writing 2,000 words a day, for example. So we're going to see how it's working with 1,000 words a day, and I'll reevaluate in a couple of months or something and see if I can't even make it to where I can make my daily goal 1,500 or even 1,200. But just so that it isn't such a big deal to write 50,000 words in a month.
Now, when you say ain't a thing, you don't mean that you're going to skip out on Nano, do you? Or is that your plan, is to get to the point where you don't need Nano?
I don't know. Like, that is not something I'm thinking about right now. I think the time to think about that will be like the time everybody is starting to think about NaNoWriMo, like July or August, or you know what I mean, when the talk starts to come up. Because what I'm hoping will happen is that I will have a book and I will say, yes, this is what I'm going to do during November. Because if I'm writing that amount of words that regularly, I'm hoping that the whole publishing process and all of that will look different. And just where I'm at in my career is going to be so different, hopefully, by this time next year, that I'll have to just take things as they come regarding Nano, you know?
Right. You and I had a conversation too at one point towards the end of the month about how even if you got to the point where you're writing that many words, there's still a celebration kind of a thing about Nano, where it's celebrating authors and celebrating writing, that even if you are someone who writes 3,000 words a day, it's still kind of fun to participate because it's the 1 month a year that people celebrate what we do.
Yeah, it's almost like the writer's holiday, right? And so sort of like being a part of a trade organization or a club where everybody knows that this is our time. So participating minimally in, you know, word sprinting with people to the level that I have, yes, I'm hoping to be writing. I'm just hoping that it isn't a thing like it's not a stretch for me to figure out how I'm going to fit in the writing for a National Novel Writing Month.
Yep, got it. All right, who's next?
Rhonda?
Thanks for volunteering, Rhonda.
Okay, so Nano went really well for me. I was really glad with all the habits I got started with. And I really felt like I was actually working on a novel instead of just spitting words out. Because I've said before that when I won before, you know, when I first began, I just thought you start on page 1 of a novel and you go to the end, and it never worked out for me like that. So this is the best that I have felt at the end until 2 days ago. But so I got just over 30,000 words.
Wow.
So good. I did not win, but honestly, I would like to have kept most of those words that I had. All right. So 2 days ago, I went to do a little bit more writing. And that morning, I realized that my computer had, without approval, updated. And I lost probably about 7 scenes at least. And the scenes that were left were, anyway, it went back to early to mid-November. Mm-hmm. And when I went to my backups, they ended up screwing up. I'm not going to go into every detail right now. But the moral of the story is I think that since I hadn't shut my Scrivener down and my computer updated, something corrupted. So I ended up losing 19,000 words at that point. Well, last night, I restarted my computer and I did a couple things, and I found one more update that had a lot of the stuff that I was missing in it. So anyway, now I'm only down about 4,000 words.
Oh, so that's so much.
I got a lot of that.
Sickening, but better.
Still sickening, yeah.
But the part of Act 2 that I was so happy with, that is back. So yay. I am okay with the other 3,000 words if I have those back. So moral of the story, always shut down your Scrivener when you go to bed.
I know, because I'm sitting here thinking like she did backup. She did the things that you are supposed to do to keep things safe. And I just felt sick for you. I'm so glad so much of it is back.
Yep. Me too. Thank you.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. This is what's so crazy is this week, one of the days I was writing, I think it was Monday, and I had written for quite a while, and then I was going to do another sprint. I'm like, you know what? I never cleared out my targets in Scrivener so that I could see how many words I was writing each time. So I opened up my targets, and it said I was negative 10,000 and something. And I was like, what? And my total word count was like in like the low 40s, which would be 10,000 less than what I actually had. And I started messaging the girls, like basically all caps, like, are you kidding me? I'm sending them screenshots and I'm just like kind of freaking out. Now, luckily for me, because I had one Nano, I had already compiled what I had written into a Microsoft Word document so that I could like then copy and paste it into NaNoWriMo.org. And so I had the words, but then I had to go through and figure out, well, what words are missing. But then the scary thing is how did this happen? How do I stop it from happening again? Then the next morning I got up and I was another 746 words in the hole, which is exactly how many words I had written the day before. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So I compiled again and all my words were there. It's just my counter is somehow screwed up. So then when Rhonda had this issue, we were like all in hopes that it was the same problem, but it's not. It's a different issue that she has. And it's
Yeah,
just,
I had some
so,
issues with my Scrivener word counter too. It's just wacky sometimes. Jen,
yeah.
did you want to talk about how you did it with Nano?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I did win, which this is my
Yay.
first win ever. This is my third year doing Nano and my first win. Very exciting. I won a couple days before the end, and I never updated NaNoWriMo.org. I have more words than what it shows on here, but who cares? I won, right? So, and I think for me, what I will do again next year is I will for sure take October, the whole month, or as much as I can, to prep for whatever novel I'm going to write. Because it forced me, as I'm prepping, the time frame forced me to keep looking at it and keep working at it and keep perfecting it, because I couldn't start till November 1st. Normally, like during the rest of the year, I'll get an outline. I'll think, yeah, that's pretty good. And I start writing because I get all excited about the story. But this time I couldn't. Like I had this deadline. I can't start till November 1st. And I kept working it through to where by the time November 1st hit, I had a really, really solid, I keep looking at it. Sorry, my board's over there. I had a really solid outline to where it really was just basically putting the meat on the bones when I sat down. And that made a huge difference. So that even when I got behind several days because of Thanksgiving or other things that have happened, I was able to pull it out, pull it through. Moving forward, could I continue to do 50,000 word months? I mean, possibly, but my children like to eat and they like a clean house, which did not happen a whole lot in
That's
November.
all everybody did.
Yeah, like when I got behind, I found myself sitting. I wrote 5,000 words in one day, and those days that I had those big chunk, my kids basically like made sandwiches for dinner. Like they get it. They knew it was November. They knew what I was doing, and they're very supportive. But I can't do that on a regular basis, and I don't want to either. So moving forward, I think I will still do a deadline. Like I'm not going to start the next novel till, let's say, January 1st, which means I can only outline. I'll do other writings because you want to keep your brain glowing. But I won't start the next novel until the 1st, so that I have to keep working on the outline. I'll see how that goes. I think that's going to make a big improvement in not just my word count, but in the story structure as well. So I'm excited about that.
That sounds great. Did we hear what Rhonda is going to do next year differently? Like I think we got a good feeling for how her month went, but I don't think we got her what to do next year different.
I'm going to go deeper into my outline. I did what Jen did, except not to the extent that she did. And I think I'm going to bump that up a little bit more next year because it really worked for me a lot.
Do you think if you started earlier, that would help? Because that's
earlier
what I
than
think was,
October?
maybe, I don't know, like you said go deeper, or was it the fact that you had it down and you thought like you had all you needed? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought, I'm just going to add some calcium to the bones.
Yeah.
Make them a lot stronger.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Tina, how about you?
Well, I think the Preptober thing really helped. Especially since it wasn't my story, really. It was, but like I was given the basic theme and I was given a plot and I was given these characters. But the whole outlining process of Preptober, I'm definitely going to do that again next year because it really did help. Especially, when I'm writing normally, I have more time to kind of ponder things. But when you're trying to get 50,000 words in a month, there's really no time for that. All the pondering had to be done ahead of time. And that was really helpful.
And Tina, how many words did you write in November?
52,000.
Yay! So you won, Nano. Yay!
Yes, I did. Yep, on the last day.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
All right, great. Is there anything you ladies will not do next year? Something that you thought was going to work but did not work for you? For me, I think that I will not start off drinking so much pop. I had kind of backed up a pop a lot, like soda for everyone outside of Michigan, soda, and I'm so addicted again now. So now I'm gonna have to break that habit. So I'm gonna try to be healthier. I wasn't super concerned with my health during NaNoWriMo, and I'm feeling it now. So that's something I will probably not do the same next year.
I'm really hoping that I'm not gonna try to get done just as soon as I possibly can. Like, I don't know why. The reason I finished early was mostly because I just had this, I guess it just really felt like an albatross that I was carrying around. And I just wanted to put it down already. And I'm like, but I can't until I've written 50,000 words. And so I feel like I was kind of manic about it, which I guess is why I'm saying if I'm in a rhythm of already writing, say, 1,200 or 1,500 words a day, it won't feel that way for me. It will just feel a little less like pressure, So I guess I will not be in such a hurry to finish next year. Not because of quality, just for like mental health reasons. Because I really just feel like I don't want to do any work after that. It was like really just a lot. So sorry. Go ahead, Rhonda.
No, it's fine. It's funny that you say that because this year I gave myself permission to not meet the goal. And I think that was important for this year. But next year, one thing I'll change is that I do want to win again.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right, great. Well, before we go into our writing for the day, we do want to spend a little bit of time talking a little bit more about our Preptober experiment that we did. For those of you just tuning in, this last October, we spent the entire month using Facebook Live to plan out a novel. We split it up into segments, plotting, characterization, story building, and we did it all with the example of a story that then Tina in turn used as her nano project. And so Tina's kind of already alluded to the fact that she would do the prepping again and that seemed to work for her. So I don't know, do we need to talk about that some more? If anyone's interested, you can still go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Christian Indie Writers. And you can still watch those lives. They're still on there, and you can see how we did that in the process we used. But let's talk about that a little bit. How did that process feel originally to you, Tina? Going through it like that.
I liked it. It was fun. First of all, I mean, I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. I'm just going to have fun with it. They're going to give me something, crazy to write, and I'm going to write it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But when it came to November, it got really serious. And the subject matter was domestic violence. That was kind of the theme of the book. And I started doing a little research and realizing that this was really a serious subject, and this was not going to be like the fun little novel that I thought it was going to be. But the character building and the plotting and the world building that we did ahead of time helped me to know where I was going, who the characters were, and then that other stuff, the deep stuff that I wanted to add to make this book make a statement about domestic violence was so much easier because I didn't have to worry about all that stuff, if that makes sense to you guys.
So the point of doing this was not just to kind of like, see if Tina can do it. Like that wasn't really what this was about. It was really about just kind of trying to show people who are thinking about writing a novel how they can use outlining and, structure and things like that to produce like a novel. So do you think that we provided people with tools that are actually functionally helpful? Because of course they would be doing this for something that they would be writing themselves, right? So it's kind of like a step-by-step, prepare yourself to write a novel that you have thought of. And so how do you think that that would have worked if you would have done the process alone? Do you think you still would have found success with those methods?
I think so. And I think the only thing that I might add to the plotting and the characterization and the world building was maybe taking the time to figure out what is it you're trying to, what is your theme, or what are you trying to say? Like maybe spending just a little bit of time in October thinking about that theme of domestic violence and what was it I wanted to say through my book ahead of time might have made it go even smoother.
Well, and I do also think that where we sort of left you hanging, so to speak, would be a story arc or plot points, because like we did talk about, well, what are the characters and what is the premise and sort of things like that. But because we didn't want to pigeonhole you into a genre or, you know, really write the story for you, we didn't go through like, okay, well, here's what's going to happen in the first act, and then here's where your climax is going to fall in the 50,000 words and sort of those sorts of things. So I might recommend that
We
someone
spent a whole, sorry.
we did. What did we do?
Yeah, we spent a whole Facebook Live talking about plot points. We came up with her disasters and what was going to happen at each of the disasters. And we gave her some freedom to go what was going to go between them. But we did do that. She may not have like stuck with it entirely, but we did talk about that.
That's probably what's going on then, is because I'm remembering her sort of wondering what comes next. So I think I had just like forgotten that we had done that, because I was thinking if you weren't doing that, that might be something that would be helpful as far as, because I mean, yours is on a big board and it's all mapped out in advance. And so when you didn't know what to write, you just looked and figured out what to write. And so I take it all back. Just, you know, mentally delete the last 3 minutes of talking.
I had a board just like Jennifer's, only mine was in Excel instead of like a physical board sitting behind me in the room. I had an Excel sheet. It was set up exactly like her board. And I had little digital index cards that I pinned to it with all my plot points. And after we did all those Facebook Lives, I added all my little plot points in between the big disasters that you guys gave me.
So then tell me, what is the sand, I guess, that you were missing then? Because you're saying you didn't have your theme, but I'm having a hard time understanding how you can have it plotted out so thoroughly and not really understand the theme. So just help me understand where the disconnect was there.
Well, I think it was, I had a story that I was going to tell, but I didn't have a message that I was trying to get across. You know, am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the one story, oh, and I'm going to forget the name of it now, but based on the book of Hosea. Do you remember? You know what story I'm talking about?
Yeah, Redeeming Love by
Redeeming Love. So Redeeming Love has a story, but within the story, there's a message. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about. I hadn't thought ahead of time, what is my message going to be that's going to be told within the story?
And when in the process did you think, uh-oh, without this message, I'm not going to be able to continue? Like, at what point did you run into trouble there?
I wouldn't say that it was trouble. I wouldn't say, I could have wrote the story without the message. But at some point, and it may have come from my devotions that I was doing too, I just felt that the Lord impressed upon me that there needed to be a message.
Gotcha.
Not just a story. So if I had thought about that ahead of time in October, all I'm saying is maybe I could have done more research and I could have gotten even more intricate into that message.
Awesome. And yeah, I'm only pressing the point because the thing is like, well, what did we miss as far as giving someone the tools to equip themselves to write a novel? And so I'm just pressing you for specificity so that anybody who's trying to add to what we did will know where it could use rounding out.
You could definitely write a story with what we did. I could have had a story without that message.
It sounds like we might want to consider doing an entire podcast episode on theme. And because as Tina's talking, I'm specifically thinking about my own writing and how, as I do the outline, how that naturally comes out, because mine, I think comes out when I'm creating my characters, because I know who they are when they start, and I know who I want them to be by the end, and that naturally brings out a theme. But that would be a whole episode. I think would be really good for us to really kind of delve into that deeper for people who are just starting out as writers. So
and that might have come out more naturally if I had developed all my own characters too.
Maybe.
Right,
So this
right.
is kind of an experiment where somebody else was doing that work for me.
Mhm.
And so that might have been more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, when people hire ghostwriters or kind of whatever, like I am sure that if I said to each of you three ladies, write for me a story about, that it would come back so different. Like,
Oh yeah.
how do like ghostwriters get
Mhm.
someone to really write that story? Like, it's you wonder how many people are just a little unsatisfied
Yeah.
with that experience.
That's proven in our writing sprints.
Yes. Mhm.
That's a great segue.
It sure is. Thanks so much for that, Rhonda. And it is time for us to move on to the next segment, our last segment, where we share a piece of writing. Now, in our normal writing group, our real life writing group, we bring pieces to each other that have been fully edited, and we critique each other, giving good, positive support, but also giving some constructive criticism to make us better writers. In the podcast, that's what we do in the postcast as well, which you've heard us talk about, which is part of our Patreon page. But in the podcast, right before we start recording, we spend 15 minutes writing something with some sort of writing prompt, and then we share it. So this is raw, unedited writing that we are sharing with you here today. And the support that you're going to hear is not going to be criticism. It's going to be support because we've not edited this. So for today, what we decided to do was, because it is December, we picked some Christmas words that we had to include in our writing. And those words were Noel, tinsel, frosty, fir, as in fir tree, FIR, comet, and advent. So those were the 6 words that we had to share or had to include. And according to Jamie, we're supposed to include all of them.
At
But
least one is, you know.
yeah, at least one, because Jamie and I struggled with that a couple weeks ago. But
Hilarious.
all right, is there someone who would like to go first to share theirs, or should I just call on someone like Tina did earlier?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I just like to pull the Band-Aid off. I'm just that kind of person. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
The advent of winter came in like a lion that year. One day the leaves on the cottonwoods were mustard yellow, and the next the fir trees were painted with frosty white snow. The snow lay on the ground like a thick, deep carpet, making snowshoes necessary for travel. Joseph White sat beside a roaring fire in a clearing deep in the forest. The fire had heated him sufficiently enough that he undid his white wolf parka and pulled the hood off. His pitch-black hair hung straight as an arrow to his shoulders, and his almond-shaped black eyes against brown skin reflected the firelight. A wolf howled from somewhere in the distance, answered by other calls in a ring that seemed to surround Joseph on all sides. He wasn't concerned. They were far enough away not to pose any danger to him. Plus, the fire was bright and hot and would keep most creatures away. The bears would be hibernating by now, so there was no need to worry about them. It was moose that posed the most danger. The beasts only seemed slow as they lumbered through the trees, their faces tricking men into thinking they were dumb creatures. Joseph knew a man underestimated a moose at his own peril. Yes, it was the moose that worried Joseph the most, but not on this night. He had no worries about the cold, which the fire had chased from his small circle of the forest. Joseph pulled a caribou antler knife and began to whittle a thin stick. It was the perfect thickness and had just the right bend to make a fine arrow. A man could never have enough arrows in the wilderness, for he never knew what would be around the next bend. Joseph realized as he pondered the night sky with its bright stars and dancing auroras that it must be very close to Christmas. It was easy to lose track of the days when one was traveling through the wilderness for weeks on end. A comet streaked across the sky, bringing to mind a star above a manger on a cold winter's night long ago. Joseph hummed the tune of the first Noel as he poured himself a cup of Russian tea. Rustling sounds from the trees nearby caused him to stop and set down his cup. He bent and picked up the bow and arrows which he'd rested against the log he was sitting on. He pulled up his parka hood, unrolling the edge until he was looking through a tunnel of wolf hide. This would help him to see better in the dark. The trees shook, and then a high-pitched feline scream filled the air. The hair stood up on Joseph's neck, which is nothing. Was it nothing more than a lynx, or was it the great saber-toothed creature that legend spoke about? It was supposed to haunt this area of the forest. Joseph notched his arrow and pulled back on his bow. Then he saw the eyes of the cat as they reflected the light of the fire from the darkness beyond the trees, and he knew that he would likely not see another Christmas.
You just like killing people, don't you?
What
so
beautiful
awesome.
words. Yes, like so poetry, so well written. Like the 1 minute yellow leaves and the snow, like just
painted. The branches were painted with snow.
Mhm.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you wove so much information in there without it being like info dump, you know?
Mhm.
Just a few words here and there was just, it was perfect.
I could see him, his arrow straight hair and the black eyes and brown skin, and really
How many
good.
of the words did you use?
537, I think.
No, she used
No.
all the words, she said.
Oh, I used all the words.
Wow.
There was only one that popped out. Oh, like you had to have him singing the first Noel. Although it fit in the story, it was the only one. Oh, and the Advent, because it was right there in the beginning.
I
But the
love
rest
that
of
though,
them,
how she used that.
yeah,
Like
the
different
rest
than
of
I
them
did.
just,
Yeah.
I didn't even hear them. Like my ear
Mhm.
didn't hear the words. They were
Well,
really
there was a
seamlessly.
comet in the sky when he was looking at the stars.
Yeah. See, I missed that too.
Comet.
Like,
I even forgot Comet was a word.
You do write these down, right?
Yeah, and then I go, the same thing that makes me get off like 3 exits past where I'm supposed to get off happens.
We even gave you extra time.
And so then you probably missed the frosty white snow on the fir trees.
Oh, frosty
didn't-
snow. I knew that the snow was painted. Like, I don't know. I was lost in the poetry. It was just so poetic.
Thank you.
That excellent work.
awesome. All right. Who wants to go next?
How come you're not going next, Jen?
I will
Yeah,
go
we-
next.
Yeah,
that's
Jen.
that's what I was about to say. Thanks for volunteering me, Jamie. All right. So during the month of November, we all of our writing sprints for the podcast had to be written in the world that we were writing in because we were trying to get our words. We did not have to do this today, but for some reason I did. It just kind of, I guess my head is there still with all of my characters. So that's what I did. Althea frowned at the tinsel-covered fir tree. Grant knew his mother had never been a fan of the silvery Christmas tree covering. He also knew that she had never been much of a fan of messes. He was certain these two dislikes went hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
With all the trees throughout Sutton Hall, was it really necessary to add one to the boys' study room? What's the matter, Mother? The Advent season got you down? No, but this tacky tree does. He laughed. Well, you have your favorite governess to thank for this little addition. His mother turned an arched brow in his direction. Do you mean to tell me that little slip of a girl chopped this fir tree down, threw it over her shoulder, and carried it up the stairs to this room? No, he admitted, I did that. Because she wanted it. He didn't answer her. They both knew the answer to that question. It was Althea's turn to chuckle. I knew it. You have a thing for this girl. A thing. Really, Mother. You sound like a schoolgirl with your word choices sometimes. Well, you are acting like a schoolboy, but it's about time. I wondered how much longer I would have to keep coming up with a situation that placed you in close proximity with Miss Albright before she finally turned your head. Are you serious? You wanted me to fall for the governess. That seems completely out of character for you. Shouldn't you be setting me up on blind dates with heiresses and debutantes, not members of your staff? She reached out and scratched the word Noel in the frosty pane of glass that overlooked the pastures. She would probably come back later and wipe it clean so as not to leave a mark on the usually spotless glass. But for now, Grant enjoyed seeing his mother's youthful side make an appearance. Maybe a few years ago, that would have seemed important to me. But now, well, I just want you to be happy. And you think Miss Albright is the path to happiness for me, don't you? Giggles floated in from the upstairs playroom. On Donner, on Dasher, on Prancer and Vixen. a feminine voice could be heard floating down with the laughter. On Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. Grant's mother turned toward the sound, her mouth agape. She isn't up there with them, is she? Grant smiled. She plays every day with them. The previous look of contentment that had only moments ago graced his mother's face was replaced with a frown. It isn't proper. More giggles waved down to them, causing Grant to laugh as well. It seems that Miss Albright is the path to happiness for more than one of your sons. I don't like it. It isn't proper, she repeated. She swiped her warm hand against the glass, wiping away any evidence of the frosty words before storming out of the study room. Grant shook his head at her departing figure. Dash away, dash away, dash away all.
Yay!
That was so
Is that
fun.
going in your story?
I am going to put it in my story because
Yeah.
I was lacking a scene that explained why this woman with all this money would keep trying to set her son up with this governess. It didn't make sense. And in my mind it did, because I knew that she was just fed up with him being single. And she saw something there. So she's like, all right, we're just going to go with this kind of an attitude. So that kind of starts to help build that.
She's conflicted within herself with this childishness that Sarah has. So it's kind of like she likes it but doesn't like it. I decide to grow up. You know what I mean? It's very telling about her character too. It's really, really well done.
Thank you.
Really neat and nice tie-in at the end with the dash away. It's a double meaning. I love it. Really good.
I only got that in because we gave you extra time. Otherwise, it wouldn't have had that. So I'm really glad that we gave you extra time.
Yes, I begged for extra time. Should I go next?
I had it ending with just her wiping the words off, which was good too. But then I add that and I like that better. So yes, Jamie, you should go next.
Okay, so I think I got 3 words. I want to open the first window. You got to do the first one last year. It's my turn. Kids, please. I mean to sound sharp and corrective, but 2.5 hours inside the supercenter with my 3 children has done me in, and the request sounds like that of a parched man in the desert begging a passing Bedouin for a sip of water, which isn't exactly a stretch, seeing as they keep the market at 102 degrees this time of year, and it is impossible to dress for that kind of heat when you know you'll be stepping out into -18 wind chill. Thoughts of the drastic changes in temperature send my thoughts to pneumonia, and I am reminded to check and see if 3 puffy coats have made it out of the store and onto 3 small bodies. The boy, sweet as can be, looks up at me with his big blue eyes and grunts something around his pacifier, pointing a tiny finger which pricks at my mama guilt until I stuff the thought away, reminding myself that baby mittens are as ridiculous an idea as baby socks without shoes. I only had to lose 3 pair of my first before I'd finally gotten that message. Besides, if I put mittens on him, I wouldn't have been able to see his adorable pointing, which, it turns out, is at the man in a red suit merrily ringing a bell standing next to a kettle. His dad has given him coins to put in there. How very holly jolly of him. Now I'm being shaken down by my most irresistible tormentor to perform the same trick. Oh, look, it's Daddy's kettle man, I manage, right before the wheel of the cart gets stuck in a rut of half-frozen snow and stops me in my tracks. The middle one, who'd been riding illicitly along in the bigger part of the buggy with the groceries, cries out in dismay as her head makes contact with a case of soda. Sorry, I say, and hope she does not cry, so that I don't have to take her older sister on in an attempt to convince her to allow the poor injured middle child to open the first window of the chocolate advent calendar I'd just purchased. As if reading my mind, the oldest pipes up. I will open the first window, she says. Then you can open the next 2 days. No, because it will be Charlie's turn, the middle one astutely observes. He's a baby. He doesn't get a turn. I'm tempted to advocate for Charlie, but I'm too distracted monitoring parking lot traffic and herding the cart and the oldest to gather my thoughts properly for an argument. We make it to the van, and I press the unlock button on my key fob and say the usual get in, belts on. I silently pray to God a thanks for allowing me to make it to the phase of life where middle child can get herself out of the cart and into the car as I hoist the baby up and into his car seat. The door on the other side is open, but no girls have appeared on the bench next to Charlie. I don't want to sit next to Charlie, Middleton says. But I have longer legs, the oldest says. Girls, I've had enough of your bickering, I say, in a tone that frightens Charlie. He launches his pacifier from his mouth and starts wailing. Oh, baby, I'm so sorry. I stroke his head and whisper shushing sounds while simultaneously working on a game plan to handle the girls. My strategizing proves to be unnecessary, though. The middle child flings herself into the seat next to Charlie, sending the whole van rocking, and snarls at her sister. I hate you. Hey, that's uncalled for, I say, mostly out of habit, as I am relieved they have managed to handle the dispute among themselves. I slide the groceries into the space beneath Charlie and shove the cart into yet another slush pile. This time the place where all the saintly people shove the carts. I feel a twinge of guilt for returning mine in such a crooked manner, but remember that I have a built-in excuse for leaving it. I have kids in the car. By the time I round the van and get into my seat, the bickering has restarted. I look at the clock to discover we are cutting it closer than I want for making it over to the mall to meet Dad for the whole pictures with Santa thing. There are baths to be had and outfits to wriggle into. I curse, then check the mirror for evidence I was heard. No sign. They are still too engaged in an epic sister battle. I sigh with relief and head for home. Charlie starts crying, and I try to drown him out with Christmas music. This is a mistake, as instead of delightful Bing Crosby or Andy Williams, it's that new tinsel song by that nasally pop star. Now there are 3 people in my car whining, in addition to a screaming baby. How very peace on earth. Goodness, girls, could you give your brother something to calm him down? United in an effort to calm Charlie, the girls' voices lower as they look around the back seat for an appropriate soother. By the time I've pulled over to allow a tailgater to pass and narrowly avoided getting T-boned at a slippery intersection, all is quiet except for the soothing tones of the first Noel playing on the radio. Charlie has been pacified. Middle is passed out asleep, and oldest is reading a book. I am thankful. We get home, and I discover what had kept Charlie so quiet. They had given him the advent calendar. All of the little windows are open. Tiny pieces of chocolate have fallen between his legs and onto the floor. At least some of the candy has made it into his mouth, and his hands are covered in a sticky brown substance, which I pray is also chocolate. Girls, you gave him the advent calendar. It's an astonished observation more than an admonishment. Yes, the oldest said matter-of-factly. He has never had the chance to go first.
What a heartwarming Christmas story.
I feel like I know these children.
I didn't know we were allowed to write nonfiction in these writing activities.
I loved it. Every word of it.
Oh, thanks.
Please tell me that this actually happened to you.
It did not happen to me. No. I think it was my cold feet that inspired me, because I remember the cold feet, even though I wore thick socks and those hiking boots. And then I'd go out into the Michigan and it would be frozen blocks of ice for feet. Until, of course, you got inside the supermarket, at which point you're like peeling off the layers.
Yeah.
Right.
Ugh, ridiculous. It's like 100 degrees inside a Walmart, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. If you don't live in the north, you don't understand layers. Like you might wear layers because it's fashionable. You see some like celebrity wearing a couple layers, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy this little sweater to wear. No, this is survival. We have to have like 4 or 5 layers just to make it through the different stages of going from home to the grocery store and back. That's just how life is.
And you just can't take off enough to be cold in the grocery store this time of year.
Now without getting arrested.
Right. Well, anyway, so I needed the
Tell
extra time because I didn't have the ending.
How much did you add? Where did you stop before?
They were Charlie being drowned out by the nasally pop stars as far as I got. I really wanted to have the ending there where he got into the chocolate, so I really wanted to be able to put that on.
I think my favorite part is where she was trying to get the cart into where all the saintly people put them.
That was awesome.
Pushing a cart through all that slushy pile. Oh my word. You have to be a saint to use those. Then.
All right, Rhonda. You are up, my friend.
All right. Here you go. My nose hairs are sticking together. That should tell you how much fun I'm having, said Noelle, trying to shove her gloved hands farther into her armpits. Aunt Kitty looks like she wants to too, so why can't we just get this tree? She pointed her shoulder at the bushiest fir in the lot. It must have been 10 feet tall. My cheeks bunched up into a smile, but I imagined in the frosty condition it was a laughable sight. I rubbed the tip of my nose, hoping to chip away at the icicles inside of it. It was a lovely evening, the kind you see in a happy Christmas movie, not a comedy where everything goes wrong. The sky was full of a million stars. I can see my breath, of course, but not the steamy kind that freezes to your cheeks. Tonight it almost crystallized as it left my body and sparkled in the air. I waddled over to Noelle. I was as bundled up. I've learned over the years that no one looks cute, has a shivering pile of frosty skin. She, being a teenager, hadn't learned that yet. Look up in the sky, Noelle, I pointed. She leaned back into me, and I wrapped my arms around her. A comet! Aunt Katie, did you see that? I did, and its tail looked like a huge piece of tinsel in the sky. I hugged her as we silently stared into the sky. Our bonding moment was shattered when Jeff joined up with us in a one-person stampede and slapped me on the back in greeting. What are you girls doing? You frozen in place? Hey, Jen, here they are. Is that the one you want? He called out to his wife, who was headed our way. Kate, you should see the tree we picked out. We picked one out for you, too. She tugged on my puffy sleeve. Come look at it. We can fit both trees in our car. She was not allowing me to stand there. I gave Noelle a squeeze. She slipped her gloved hand into mine. My heart swelled. This might be the first Advent I want to be part of in 7 years.
Yay! How wonderful. I love that she points with her shoulder. I mean, you are just telling a scene like you're just so well done. So well done.
Clearly the nose hairline is my fave. Like I could not stop the laughter from bursting out. That was awesome.
Yeah,
I just love how she's still a teenager, so she thinks it's possible to be cute. Like I mean, goodness, so good. So good.
Yeah. And the first Advent you want to be part of in 7 years makes you go, why? Like it's so good.
There's
like
a
7
story
years.
there.
There's a story there. I love it.
And you're so good at interpersonal relationships.
Yes.
Thank you.
They're very real.
The one person stampede tells you all you need to know about that guy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then he's just so enthusiastic and stuff.
Yeah.
Really good.
Awesome. That was a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, all of you guys. Wow. Really, really good.
Yeah. Well, I think that about does it for this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Tune in over on our Patreon page for the postcast. The postcast is where we share edited pieces of our work for full-on critique. You get to not only see how we critique each other and how we help to encourage each other's writing, but you get to hear all of the hijinks as well with the fun that we have over there. So go on over to lots of hijinks. Come on. So go on over to Patreon and search for Christian Indie Writers, and we will pop right up there for you. But until then, thank you for joining us. And until then, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye.
Bye.